Hi, I'm Dia and you guys are watching Dianosaur. So today I'm gonna talk about my 5-star predictions for the year of 2023. And this is the indie version. So last year in around November I think I got a subscription of Kindle Unlimited, and since then my life has changed. I discovered that indie or self-published books, fantasy books, are equally are as good as traditionally published books. Like in some cases they are even better than traditionally published books, and that blew my mind. And I was like, okay, I am gonna read at least, if not 50%, but 30% of my TBR will be indie. And so far, I'm happy to say that I have read a lot of indie, and I'm gonna do a video soon about all the indie books that I've read last year and this year also. Like, January has passed, and I've read like two out of the three books that I read in January were indie, and that is amazing. So today I'm going to talk about the five indie books that I feel that I'm going to give 5 stars to. So let's get on with it. First we have Where the Waters Turn Black by Benedict Patrick. So one of the best books that I've read last year was They Mostly Come Out at Night by Benedict Patrick. And it's this dark fantasy that is inspired from folklore, like folk tales and stories like that, and it's told as if it's a dark folk tale. So you have this atmospheric writing with these, sometimes infuriating, sometimes great characters, and the magic system is this darkly whimsical kind of a magic system, and the story is woven within the stories, the main story. It was just amazing, it was masterfully done. And it's not, this book is not exactly a sequel, it's a companion novel. So it's set in the same world but in a different region, and we are going to follow different characters. And it's, the first book was inspired from the Grimm's fairy tales, and I think also North American indigenous folk tales. And this one is, um, what do you call that area, the Pacific islands, that area, Moana. That's all I know about that region. So that region's folktale is gonna be portrayed in this book. So I don't know much about the book. You know that I go into books kind of blind. So I don't know much about what the book is about, but it's about this girl who is uh comes across a monster or something like that, and from there the story goes. I like, that is like the worst description of a book that's, I've ever given. And I give a lot of terrible explanation of books. Like, check out my new short of terrible book explanations that I did. So yeah, anyway, plug in. So the next book we have is Legacy of Brightwash by Crystal Matar. I think that's how you say the name. I hope I'm not butchering the name. If I am, I'm so sorry. So, Legacy of Brightwash, again, I don't know much about it. I know that it's kind of like this dark noir kind of a world, and this guy, he discovers the dead body of a girl, and from there the story kind of, goes on. And it was a finalist in SPFBO 7, and everyone who has read this book, they have recommended it to me like glowingly. For example, Esme, you guys know who Esme is. Like, she is basically everywhere. May, for example, she gave like glowing recommendation of, like, she glowingly recommended this book to me and a lot of other people, and I have a feeling that I am gonna love this book because I like those, dark, gritty, noir kind of stories where there is no good guy, no bad guy, like everyone is morally gray, and it has a central mystery, like who is this girl, how did she die, and all that. And I love my books with fantasy books to have mysteries in them, and yeah, I think I'll love it. Next, we have Trials of Ashmount by John Palladino. I don't know anything about this book except the fact that the first line is phenomenal. Like, if you are, lukewarm about this book, go and read the first line, and you'll be like, okay, like, okay, I'm interested in this book. So, go ahead, go and read the first line. So, basically, it's a grimdark kind of a story, and there's this place where some kind of a revolution is going on, if I'm not wrong. Oh my god, am I butchering the synopsis of this book? I don't know, maybe I am. So, basically, the first line sold me, and I have a feeling that from the first line, you get to see the tone of the story, you get to see how the writing is gonna be. And it's gonna be this, this gritty, awful world where awful people get away with awful deeds and all that. So, yeah, like, I like those kind of books, so I have a feeling that I like this one also. So next we have Yellow Sky Revolt by Batis Pasavu. I think that's how you say the name. If I'm butchering it, oh my god, like, I don't know. I'm so sorry. So this book is a retelling of, it's a historical fiction book, and it's this retelling of this Chinese some kind of a revolt that happened, and Yellow Turban or something they were called, this group, uh, a militia or something like that. And it's basically the story told from the point of view of this old man who is kind of reminiscing about his young days and how he, came to be a part of this revolution, and how that revolution affected the country and everything and all that. And I haven't read that many historical fiction, like military historical fiction. I'm not talking about the Christine Hanna kind of historical fiction. Those ones I kind of detest. Although when I was young, I read Thousand Splendid Suns and Kite Runner and absolutely loved them. But I have changed as a reader, and I am not the kind of reader who, seeks out those kind of stories anymore. So I always thought that historical fiction is this, boring. I thought that, that's the only kind of historical fiction that people write. And people told me that no, like, you should check out these kind of books because they are very similar to fantasy and you might like them. And I read The Winter King by Bernard Cornwell, and it's a retelling of the Arthurian legend, and it's a historical fiction. Like, it doesn't have magic or anything like that. Like, it has magic, but like, it's not magic. I absolutely loved it, and I since then I've been itching to read. I mean, of course, like, I can read the sequels and finish the trilogy and all that, but I'm also like searching for other stories by other authors that will be as epic and as like sweepingly amazing like The Winter King. So far, I have managed to collect Lancelot by Giles Christian. Then the other trilogy by Giles Christian, God of Vengeance, is the first book. Uh, so all these things, Boudica also have got the first three books. So when I saw about Yellow Sky Revolt, I was like, I need to check this out, and I go into my books blind, so I didn't check out the author interview that happened over on Alan's channel, Library of Alexandria, and like Tori and Kyle and Alan, they had a chat with the author. I didn't watch that because I wanted to go into the book, without any kind of, preconceived notions or anything like that. So the only thing I know is that it's about this old man who is talking about his past life, and it's like it's a revolt of this, like very powerless group of people against this very powerful Chinese royalty. I also have a thing for, it's called a frame narrative. I have a thing for frame narratives. Like ever since I read Hyperion, I'm like, I love the way the story was told, and I am looking forward to, reading this book. I took a lot, like it took me like 10 minutes to tell you why I think this book should get 5 stars, and that's, pathetic. Last is Hall of Bones by Tim Hardy. So, Hall of Bones. My other obsession last year was Vikings. For some reason, I was like looking for, like Viking stuff in everything that I was consuming. So, I watched Northman, amazing, phenomenal movie. I was listening to Wardruna and Helang and all these, like Nordic music. In books, I was seeking out all kinds of Viking books. So in non-fiction, I was looking for, like obviously I listened to Norse mythology by Neil Gaiman. I was also looking to, like buy the prose Edda translation and all these Icelandic sagas and Volsung saga and all these things. I was looking for historical fiction that featured Vikings. I was looking for podcasts that featured Vikings. So I was, for some reason, I went crazy and I was like, give me all the Viking stuff. And when I discovered that, this, uh, what do you call it? Hall of Bones. Yeah, when I discovered Hall of Bones, and it's basically, like Nordic inspired uh, fantasy, low fantasy, and I was like immediately sold. Like, I was like, give me all that. And I mean, I had other books to read, like mandatory reads and all that. So I couldn't get to this book last year, but this year I'm gonna get to it very soon because I have a review copy of another book by this author, and it's in the same world, but it's the inspiration is different. I think it's African inspired, African or Middle East inspired story, and so unfortunately I will have to read that one first because that's gonna come out very very soon. So I will be reading that one first, and then whenever I'll have time, I'll read Hall of Bones. So the craze for Viking stuff, it has gone down considerably. I'm not like a crazy Viking fan or anything like that anymore. And but still, I want to read, like all the books that I've gathered that are Viking inspired. So, for example, I have The Long Ships by the author's name I can't see from here. I don't have my glasses. And I also have God of Vengeance, which is basically the story of the Northman. No, I mean it's a revenge story, but it's very different from the Northman. We will have a different video where I'll talk about, after I read God of Vengeance, I'll talk about the book and the movie and everything. Today we are gonna only talk about these 5 books. So we come to an end, and it will be fun to see, like maybe 6 months later I can come back to this video and I can see what I expected to happen and what was, reality, what's reality and all that. Like it will be fun to compare how I actually felt about the books, how I actually rated the books versus how I felt I would rate the books. Like it will be so fun if I DNF'd all the books and hated them and wanted them to, disappear from the face of the earth or something like that. Anyway, that's not gonna happen. Let's keep our heads up and let's be optimistic. So yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.